Steeler Fury. SteelerFury.com.
Yeah. Clutch. Hold on, say clutch. When the contract is up and it's all on the line. Clutch. Like Jordan did Cleveland back in 89. Clutch.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition, a playoff edition of the Pittsburgh Steelers Show on the Steeler Fury podcast. I'm your host, Wil Masisak, also known as Accidental Zen on Twitter. You might know me as Bradshaw to Ben over the years on this 14 illustrious years on this show. And with me tonight, I got some more special guests. We're going all out. We got a full house tonight, starting with from somewhere in the greater Indianapolis area. What is greater about it exactly? His name is Jeremy Coleman. He's with us. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Excited to recognize that the Steelers got to the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a little bit shocking. I think I might have been the only one last week that halfway believed it was going to happen on the show. So I'll take my victory lap. Deuces. And also with us from the South, it's not true that he once ducked meeting me in favor of going to a Frisbee golf tournament. His name is Dom. He goes by FC. He's with us. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic, sir. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Can't really complain. Living the life, as somebody I know said. And also with us to make a special Juju appearance on the show, his name is Hardnosed. Hardnosed. What is this? You don't show up for like 10 years and then you're here 2 weeks in a row. Explain to me what's going on exactly and how are you?
All right. Yeah, it's, just typical consistency. No, it's a Juju appearance. Last week was a special occasion, but it worked out so well. How could I say no?
You can. It's doable. It's possible. I've said no at least once or twice in my life. Going to start with you, Dom. Did you worry about your safety at any time on Sunday?
I did not.
Do you have a blood pressure cuff in your house?
I do. I have a bottle of Valium. No, to be honest with you, I didn't start having the heart palpitations until the fucking Chargers-Raiders game. Yeah, in overtime. My expectations were so low, and then, Jacksonville went out and won. Ben did Ben-like things, and the Chargers are up by 15. I'm getting ready to go to bed, and then Herbert decided to be Herbert and got me reaching for the old ticker.
Yeah. Well, I have a new Apple Watch I got for Christmas, and it tells you your heart rate all the time and all that kind of stuff. So I have a chart of my heart rate, and it's like it's super calm in like the first quarter of the Steelers game. Second quarter, it's like it bumps up just a little bit. It's actually still kind of low, and then the third quarter it starts to come up a little bit. The fourth quarter, it's sort of crazy in overtime. It's nuts. And then we got to the Chargers game, like at midnight, I'm going like as if I were out on a run. I was mad at first because I was, looked pretty sure with like 4 minutes left in overtime that it was going to be a tie. So yeah, that was like the worst nightmare possible. But I'm glad that you made it okay. And I'm glad I'm accidental Zen, but I think you have the Zen, Dom, actually, I think. Jeremy, you haven't been with us for a few weeks. A lot of good things have happened since you've been here. So to justify your existence and your appearance on the show, give us a feel for what we missed of your takes. Ben's going out on a high note, and what happened, what transpired on Sunday. What was your take?
Well, so with me being in Indianapolis, of course, the Steelers was not the local game. So, of course, I trot over to the local B-dubs to watch the game. So I've got the Indianapolis-Jacksonville game on this TV. I've got the Steelers and Ravens on this TV. And the entire time I'm thinking, shit, Jacksonville's going to pull this off and we aren't. That's how it's gone the past few times where we've needed tiebreaker scenarios to get in. I was just like, if Jacksonville pulls us off and we don't, we're never going to hear the end of it. So luckily, like Dom said, Ben did some Ben-like things, got us some game-winning drives, and then a special thank you to Brandon Staley for calling a timeout with like 30-some seconds left, and the Raiders just saying, you know what? Screw you. We're going to kick you out of the dance. So thank you, Brandon Staley, because without that, I'm not sure the Steelers would be in the playoffs.
No, it seems pretty unlikely. I'd also like to special shout out to the Chargers defense for after the timeout, only fielding 10 players on the field and giving up a 9-yard run to put the Raiders in field goal position. How about that for luck? That counteracts the Chiefs kicker missing a field goal and not having the penalty called against the defense for lining up wrong. All right, Hardnosed. How about you? You survived. You're only a casual fan these days, I hear. So you just took it in stride on Sunday? I'm taking it.
Oh yeah, took it in stride. My heart rate was definitely elevated during the Steelers game. I echo I was watching the score of the Jacksonville game, and in my nightmares, it was this idea that the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to take care of business, and the Steelers were going to get Tyler Huntley at the end of that game to eliminate any playoff chances. It didn't happen. I was stressed. There was an element of belief. As long as the Steelers, believe it or not, as bad as the offense has been the last couple of weeks, as long as Ben had the ball in his hands, I felt pretty good. It was, getting that touchdown a little bit quicker than I might have liked, to where my next thought was, okay, come on, Baltimore, let's score quick. Let's leave a little bit of time on the clock to, allow Ben to work magic one more time. Luckily, with my casual status, there was no way I was staying up for that Sunday night football game to make sure it wasn't a tie. So that was a Tribune Review text notification at 5:45 the next morning as I woke up for work. Oh, wow, that looks like that was dramatic, and I didn't have to watch a second of it. So sometimes casualness can help every once in a while, because that would have been just nerve-wracking with very little positive entertainment value. Rooting against a tie, I don't think it gets lower as a sports fan paying money for things.
No, let me tell you, it was every bit of that and more. It was, I read somewhere that it was from the start of the first kickoff to the end of the last game. It was the longest elapsed time for a single day of football in NFL history. And I watched, at least the beginning and the end. So I was there for all of it. But that people always nothing can make you as stressed as watching a Steelers game if you're interested in the outcome. And I was just as stressed watching the Chargers Raiders game. I mean, maybe the first quarter it was just well, let's see what happens. Somebody will take a lead and we'll just root for them to get a weird score, like a safety or miss an extra point or something. And they did, but then it still worked out to be a tie later. It was oh my God, even though we had a missed extra point, it still didn't get us on the odd numbers. So what are you going to do? I'm afraid that Hardnosed can't stay with us the whole time. So anything else before we get to your prediction that you wanted to touch on about this? Actually, I got a quick one for you, Hardnosed. The Steelers, next time somebody says to you, there must be Mike Tomlin. How do the Steelers have all this problem on offense and all these guys injured and TJ Watt missed a bunch of games and yet they made the playoffs? Well, here's a stat for you, because I know you like to throw out the stats sometimes. The Steelers had 9 games this year where in the fourth quarter, their offense had the ball and they were within 1 score, meaning within 8 points, had a chance to either tie the game, win the game, have a comeback, finish the game off. They are 6-2-1 in those games this year. Of those 9 games, one of them was, of course, the Detroit game without Ben. And one of those 2 losses, Ben actually gave him the lead against the Chargers and they coughed it up in the last minute or so. And better than that, in one of the wins, he did it twice. He came the leads, got them the lead, and then they lost the lead. Then they got it back in the fourth quarter again. So let me ask you this: Is it just that this is what they said about Elway his whole career? He was just so bad early in the game that he got all these comeback victories, or is it to his credit and that he manages those comebacks this year? Does it mean that he had, in a way, kind of a special year?
Well, as a professional procrastinator, there are those of us in this world that, that everybody throws around the phrase, I work better under pressure. Well, there's some of us who only work under pressure, where that that pressing event, that pressing external stimuli is what brings out the best in us. And, Ben is like that. Tomlin is kind of like that. Tomlin's best coaching jobs are when the Pittsburgh media is turning on him, when the fan base is turning on him. These last two games should go down in Tomlin's career, some of his best work ever. Motivationally, the buttons that he pushes with guys who honestly have no business wearing an NFL uniform, I don't know what it is. I will say that I did resurrect an old moldy shirt last Sunday. And I don't even remember the name of the company that was making shirts for us back in the day. Dom might remember, but it is the Art Rooney Believe shirt. And that is something that Tomlin picked up from day one. Do I have my complaints with Tomlin? Absolutely. Is he pretty successful at making teams believe that they're capable of doing more than they should be? Absolutely. And Ben falls into that same category. They're two guys that when the chips are down, they don't give up. They don't show They don't show negative body language. They go out and they do what they need to do to get the win. Might not be pretty, might be ugly, like the Baltimore game, but they get it done. And who knows? One more chance to get it done.
Oh, by the way, Hardnosed, you'll never guess what shirt I'm wearing.
Which one?
I have a Steeler Fury podcast Believe T-shirt on right now. So
sweet. Yeah. Well, that one's gonna come out next week.
And with me, banned from Twitter, but not banned from Pittsburgh Suburban Zone 22. Joining us now is the one and only SteelPerch. SteelPerch, how are you?
Alive, just like your zombie Steelers.
What'd you make of the Steelers' unlikely chances falling into place? What was your Sunday like? Did you stress about it, or were you didn't really find it that exciting?
Well, I broke out my old college statistics book and started calculating the odds of everything happening in the manner that it happened. And the calculation of the formula I came to equaled the WWE script, that it was all fake and staged, and there's no possible way in the world that all could have happened. For everybody to be talking, for the one tie in the NFL the entire season, which was a Steelers game, and all they needed was for the last game was not to end in a tie, for it to come down to literally the final kick of overtime. While the announcing and commentating and talking head crews the entire week were saying, what if that game does? What if Jacksonville does win? What if Pittsburgh does win? And they have to hope there's no tie. And for the NFL to get the ratings they did for the Steelers-Ravens game to go to overtime, and then for that night game to drag on till 12:30 in the morning with the entire season in the balance and coming down to the final kick in the final second. Man, does that seem fishy. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but man, does that seem fishy. But hey, it worked in our favor, so I can't complain.
It may have been fishy, but it certainly was an entertaining day from start to finish. What do you make of this the late game heroics? Is it something that is just one of those statistical anomalies that will revert to the mean, or is it just that they just were really good in the clutch?
They let Ben operate whenever it go time. They kind of take, the handcuffs off Ben and let him make throws. I mean, they do something other than call, 6-yard curls and comebacks. They let him, make throws in the small windows. They let Ben be creative, which he's still very good at. He has a good arm, a live arm. He's got a gunslinger mentality. If you look at the throw, the fair move, that's vintage. And if you look at the throw to Ray McLeod, that's Ben, Favre, and maybe 2 or 3 other quarterbacks have the moxie and the gall to even attempt to make, that throw, that 12-yard dart, low and away. And, you've got to give credit to Ray McLeod for making the catch. You've got to give credit to Fairmouth for making a nice catch. And I just would love to see how this offense could have operated if this team didn't hamstring Ben with play calling and being overly concerned about a young offensive line. Maybe he wouldn't be healthy, or maybe he would have been injured. I don't think so. I don't think that it could have been much worse. And I think that there's still a lot of meat left on the bone with the Steelers offense. I expect Naji Harris plays this week. I also expect that you're going to have Juju Smith-Schuster back this week. So, it's just, as a Chiefs fan, I heard that this is good that the Chiefs are going to play the Steelers. It's like we're an exhibition game. We're like a 1AA game before they start the playoffs. That's cool. That's if that's. I hope that the Kansas City Chiefs have the same feeling about the Pittsburgh Steelers as the media does, because there is no tomorrow for Ben, and you got a lot of proud players, and it should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, there's no see you next year, for Ben in the back of his mind. We'll be better next year. Jeremy, what about this news that Dom touched on, that Juju Smith-Schuster was activated at least for practicing off the injured reserve, which means that, they have 21 days to promote him to the active roster, but it also means he has an outside chance to play this weekend. What do you make of this situation? You're going to throw Juju to the wolves with his injury shoulder that's not quite to the point where it's supposed to be fully healed?
I mean, I'll be honest. That news came out of totally left field when I heard that. I was just like, I thought he was done for the year. He's practicing. I mean, I think that's a big upgrade if he can go this weekend, because he brings that toughness and physicalness to the slot. He's a better run blocker than Ray McLeod. So, I mean, in my opinion, if he thinks he can go, he's going to be activated. There's no more, if there is a setback, there's a setback. He's got all offseason to rehab. It's do or die. You got to go with all the bullets in the chamber, even if they're a little tarnished. You've got to be firing on all cylinders if you're going to arguably be, who people consider to be the Super Bowl favorite. You got to have everyone. If he can go, he's got to go.
Yeah, what I read or what I saw or what I heard, he's not playing this week. So then I started to think, well, I thought he was out for the year, and then I'm like, well, wait a minute, he just got his shoulder hit, and if the shoulder is, it's not like a leg injury or something we're worried about an ACL re-tearing, it was a shoulder. Maybe he's just not cleared for contact yet, but the fact that they brought him back into practice this week, I would think that he would play next. Maybe they're, testing him out this week, and if they win, he'll be back next week for the playoff push. But yeah, from what I read and heard,
he actually looks ready to go. He's not like he needs 3 weeks of practice. So I guess it sounded a bit like, they're like they always do. They have to have a meeting and decide if it's, going to upset the apple cart too much to insert Juju into this, well-oiled machine. Like it's a well-oiled machine. That the part of it that was a mystery to me.
Yeah, you can't take Ray snaps away, right? But if the plan for them is to go old school Steelers smash mouth football, wouldn't you rather have Juju in there blocking instead of 130 pounds of Ray McLeod? Juju's your big physical. They really have missed him a number of times. A lot of the runs to the edge and stuff where we're getting guys blown up. That Juju, is pretty physical and moves bodies. But yeah, just from what I read, it sounded like that there's no chance they're going to play him this week, but maybe have a chance next week. But are they just trying to throw the Chiefs off by bringing him back to practice and have them, kind of account for him, or is it just going to be a last minute switcheroo? Yeah, hey, he's playing. Here you go, and he's in the game. We'll see. But from what I've heard, it just sounded like this week wasn't realistic.
To quote Ben Roethlisberger, none of us is guaranteed tomorrow, so next week, next week, if the guy's healthy enough to play and he's medically cleared, I think you have to at least have him out there sometimes. I'm actually a bit more concerned about him blocking with coming off his shoulder surgery and a broken bone or whatever he had in his shoulder than I am in a way him catching the ball and making some plays, because he can protect himself a little bit doing that. Whereas blocking, boy, with a bad shoulder, that sounds like the icky part.
But a block is not a full contact. Where he got hurt, you got a guy running full speed at you and making that contact. I think that's more of a way that you break a collarbone or separate a shoulder than just lock it onto somebody and driving them with your arms.
Yeah, so we should expect to see Stephon Tuitt and Alu Alu in practice tomorrow, right?
I was about to say that would be the coup de grace or whatever. All of a sudden, it's like, actually, Stephon Tuitt's been fine. We've been waiting for this playoff week here for 2.5 months. And by the way, Alu Alu, that kid, he's going to be back too. So, no, I mean that would be incredible. But we all know that's
too much to ask for you. Getting a little greedy.
Yeah.
Najee Harris not practicing this week. Does that scare you at all? Or worry? Or are they just trying to keep him from? They know he's playing, and they're just trying to keep him from taking hits during a practice week.
Yeah, that's what I think. Is he finished the game. He seemed fine. He's got a shoulder injury or an arm injury, whatever that thing is, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to expose him to anything else early in the week. But he's a running back. How much practice does he really need anyway? So I'm not very concerned about it at all. I'm sure he's going to play.
Are we unimpressed with the Steelers because they don't win any convincing games? Like, I think that's a thing, right? I mean, is it better to be battle tested, or is it better to have at least a couple of games where you get it all, you put it all together and win convincingly?
I think in the long run, it's better to be a good team, which they are not. I mean, a good team is going to take some bad teams and boat race them, and a good team is going to take some good teams and blow them out. And the Steelers haven't had a game where they won by 8 points. They had a couple where they got blown out themselves. The battle tested thing is only so good. You've got to keep it close going into the fourth quarter. I think that's where a big benefit comes in. One, you've got Ben, who is, top 1, 2, or 3 clutch quarterbacks, game on the line situations. And I was just going through my head, it's hard to remember every game for 18 years, but how many times in 18 years do you think that Ben's had a chance to win a game at the end of the game on a drive and failed? I mean, it may be a handful of times. Almost every single time he's gone down to score, and maybe the defense screws up and gives up another score the other way, and we lose the game. But it's very, very few times that he's failed in this situation. So, and he's at the end of his road too. He's zombie Roethlisberger at this point, and lowest rated quarterback in the playoffs, and this, that, and the other, and everything everybody else is saying about him this week. But of the 14 quarterbacks in the playoffs, you tell me you're down 2 points at the end of the game and need to drive down for a field goal or touchdown to win, I would not take anybody else over him at this point.
Yeah, in the last 30 years, Perch, there's actually somebody who tracks this stuff. In the last 30 years, if you look at quarterbacks, when they were behind in the fourth quarter and had the ball down by 8 points or less, meaning in theory, they could drive down the field, score a touchdown, get a 2-point conversion, and eventually get the fourth quarter comeback. So we'll call that a fourth quarter comeback opportunity. The best ever in that time period, Andrew Luck, who succeeded about 52% of the time. I think Peyton Manning is next, but Ben is like third or fourth on the list at something over 50% right now for his career. You add in the game-winning drive opportunities where they're not behind, but you just need to go down and get a field goal or score or something to win the game, where he's been extremely successful over the course of his career. And you're right; it's like there aren't that many times when it's failed. Like, it's notable. You almost remember them. It's like the San Diego game, or excuse me, the Chargers game, where the Ben drove them down for the score, and then the defense lit up a score to the Chargers. The game in Cleveland, the rain in Week 1 a couple of years ago, where Ben drove them, for the game winner at the end of regulation and in overtime, and Boswell missed a kick or you slipped or whatever. So it's like the exceptions are almost more memorable because there have been so few of them. So I'm with you on that one. When it comes to just a lack of expectations for this game, not only lack of expectations they'd get into the playoffs, but now here they are and they're going to the Chiefs, which I do think, Ben, is fair. Most people think of the Chiefs as being maybe the favorite to advance to the Super Bowl this year, and you're going to Kansas City, a notoriously tough place to play, and you're going to a place where you played just a few weeks ago and you were terrible and got blown out. What's different about this game, or do you expect more of the same outcome?
You just kind of going back to that whole playoff thing. In 18 years, there's never been a time under Ben that the team has gone into a playoff game that they didn't expect to win. Not only do they not expect to win, that they were some massive underdog. I mean, they've been small underdogs before, but it's always been, hey, kind of a pick 'em game, or, the Steelers were favored. They've never had the opportunity to just play loose before. And I think that's what Ben, with his interviews that he did this week, where, hey, we're not very good. Nobody expects us to win. We're just hoping not to get beat by 20 and that sort of a thing. I think that's a huge, huge thing on their side, where Kansas City's got to be puckering a little bit there, where imagine how embarrassing it would be to get beat by the Steelers. You're supposedly the number one seed. You choke a game away in Cincinnati. Now you got to play the opening weekend, where you're usually having a bye week. And now this team that you just beat by, 30 points a couple weeks ago is coming to town. You should blow them out. And if it gets to the fourth quarter and it's close, I mean, where do you think the pressure is? The Steelers are playing with house money. They're not supposed to be there. And I think there's a lot to that. The other thing I've always thought in sports, you gain more from a loss than you do from a win, strategy-wise, schematic-wise, where you can go in and look at it and say, boy, this is where that team beat us, and hey, here's some things we can do differently next time. When you're the Chiefs and you just knock the doors off the Steelers, what did you learn from that game? You just go out and try to do the same things again? And the Steelers, did Hayden play that first game, or I think he was either out or just coming back? Watt was, barely functional that game, and I don't think he even finished the game and made no impact. Hassenauer is been an upgrade at center. So, yeah, to me, I mean, the Steelers have a lot of adjustments they can make. I think they've got a lot healthier than they were in that previous game. But to me, I mean, it's just you're playing with house money. They can be loose. They can be aggressive. Tomlin hinted at some, what was the language that he used? Some significant schematic changes. However, a small change in schematics can actually add up to something huge. Is kind of what he said. So I don't know, but I just think back to 2005 when the Steelers were the big run heavy team, and they came out in the first half of those 3 road playoff games, play action pass, Ben over the top, Ben throwing downfield, build a lead, and then you come back to the run. Boy, wouldn't that catch people off guard if we came out throwing intermediate and long passes early in the game and attack the corners and stress the safeties and that sort of a thing. So I think there's a lot of possibilities there that the Steelers could miraculously pull something off to keep this game close and have a chance to win in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. And are we unimpressed with the Steelers because they don't win any convincing games? Like, I think that's a thing, right? I mean, is it better to be battle tested, or is it better to have at least a couple of games where you get it all, you put it all together and win convincingly?
I think in the long run, it's better to be a good team, which they are not. I mean, a good team is going to take some bad teams and boat race them, and a good team is going to take some good teams and blow them out. And the Steelers haven't had a game where they won by 8 points. They had a couple where they got blown out themselves. The battle tested thing is only so good. You've got to keep it close going into the fourth quarter. I think that's where a big benefit comes in. One, you've got Ben, who is, top 1, 2, or 3 clutch quarterbacks, game on the line situations. And I was just going through my head, it's hard to remember every game for 18 years, but how many times in 18 years do you think that Ben's had a chance to win a game at the end of the game on a drive and failed? I mean, it may be a handful of times. Almost every single time he's gone down to score, and maybe the defense screws up and gives up another score the other way and we lose the game. But it's very, very few times that he's failed in this situation. So, and he's at the end of his rope too. He's zombie Roethlisberger at this point, and lowest rated quarterback in the playoffs, and this, that, and the other, and everything everybody else is saying about him this week. But of the 14 quarterbacks in the playoffs, you tell me you're down 2 points at the end of the game and need to drive down for a field goal or touchdown to win, I would not take anybody else over him at this point.
Yeah, in the last 30 years, Birch, there's actually somebody who tracks this stuff. In the last 30 years, if you look at quarterbacks, when they were behind in the fourth quarter and had the ball down by 8 points or less, meaning in theory, they could drive down the field, score a touchdown, get a 2-point conversion, and eventually get the fourth quarter comeback. So we'll call that a fourth quarter comeback opportunity. The best ever in that time period, Andrew Luck, who succeeded about 52% of the time. I think Peyton Manning is next, but Ben is like third or fourth on the list. at something over 50% right now for his career. You add in the game-winning drive opportunities where they're not behind, but you just need to go down and get a field goal or score or something to win the game, where he's been extremely successful over the course of his career. And you're right. It's like there aren't that many times when it's failed. Like, it's notable. You almost remember them. It's like the San Diego game, or excuse me, the Chargers game, where the Ben drove them down for the score, and then the defense lit up a score to the Chargers. The game in Cleveland, the rain in Week 1 a couple of years ago, where Ben drove them, for the game winner at the end of regulation and in overtime, and Boswell missed a kick, or you slipped or whatever. So it's like the exceptions are almost more memorable because there have been so few of them. So I'm with you on that one. When it comes to just a lack of expectations for this game, not only lack of expectations they'd get into the playoffs, but now here they are, and they're going to the Chiefs, which I do think, Ben, is fair. Most people think of the Chiefs as being maybe the favorite to advance to the Super Bowl this year, and you're going to Kansas City, a notoriously tough place to play, and you're going to a place where you played just a few weeks ago and you were terrible and got blown out. What's different about this game, or do you expect more of the same outcome?
You just kind of going back to that whole playoff thing. In 18 years, there's never been a time under Ben that the team has gone into a playoff game that they didn't expect to win. Not only do they not expect to win, that they were some massive underdog. I mean, they've been small underdogs before, but it's always been, hey, kind of a pick 'em game, or, the Steelers were favored. They've never had the opportunity to just play loose before. And I think that's what Ben, with his interviews that he did this week, where, hey, we're not very good. Nobody expects us to win. We're just hoping not to get beat by 20 and that sort of a thing. I think that's a huge, huge thing on their side, where Kansas City's got to be puckering a little bit there, where imagine how embarrassing it would be to get beat by the Steelers. You're supposedly the number 1 seed. You choke a game away in Cincinnati. Now you got to play the opening weekend, where you're usually having a bye week. And now this team that you just beat by, 30 points a couple weeks ago is coming to town. You should blow them out. And if it gets to the fourth quarter and it's close, I mean, where do you think the pressure is? The Steelers are playing with house money. They're not supposed to be there. And I think there's a lot to that. The other thing I've always thought in sports, you gain more from a loss than you do from a win, strategy-wise, schematic-wise, where you can go in and look at it and say, boy, this is where that team beat us, and hey, here's some things we can do differently next time. When you're the Chiefs and you just knock the doors off the Steelers, what did you learn from that game? You just go out and try to do the same things again? And the Steelers, did Hayden play that first game, or I think he was either out or just coming back? Watt was, barely functional that game, and I don't think he even finished the game and made no impact. Hassenauer is been an upgrade at center. So, yeah, to me, I mean, the Steelers have a lot of adjustments they can make. I think they've got a lot healthier than they were in that previous game. But to me, I mean, it's just you're playing with house money. They can be loose. They can be aggressive. Tomlin hinted at some, what was the language that he used? Some significant schematic changes. However, a small change in schematics can actually add up to something huge. Is kind of what he said. So I don't know, but I just think back to 2005 when the Steelers were the big run heavy team, and they came out in the first half of those 3 road playoff games, play action pass, Ben over the top, Ben throwing downfield, build a lead, and then you come back to the run. Boy, wouldn't that catch people off guard if we came out throwing intermediate and long passes early in the game and attack the corners and stress the safeties and that sort of a thing. So I think there's a lot of possibilities there that the Steelers could miraculously pull something off to keep this game close and have a chance to win in the fourth quarter.
Jeremy, I'll stick with you for a second. So, this underdog theme, yeah, it's catchy and all to say, but there is something about it. If you watch sports for long enough, you just get kind of a feel when an upset is at least a possibility. One of the things always involved in that is you have this strong, the favorite is this team that sort of feels, I don't know if invincible, but they sort of feel like it's a total mismatch, and they've got a stud quarterback, and man, it just feels like, I think back and through the list of playoff history, and I think about Jacksonville going to Denver back in the day against Elway with who's their left-handed quarterback, and Jimmy Smith.
Brunell, 1994.
Yeah, and just that kind of a vibe that game had, where Denver was about to win its 2 Super Bowls, and it just felt like they were the powerhouse AFC team, really. And Jacksonville was an exhibition team, basically, or an expansion team, excuse me. And they, it was, just one of those things where it just felt like something was afoot. And I remember I won maybe the biggest football bet I've ever made in my life, one of them, by betting Jacksonville that day and the points, and not only got the points, of course, and won with the point spread, but won the whole thing. And I just remember that I made the bet because it just felt like Denver they just felt so invincible that it almost made them complacent. And there's just something about this playoff energy of a team that nobody respects, and nobody believes in us except for us. And it's a total football cliche, it's a sports cliche, but man, it works, doesn't it? I mean, that's going to be my long-winded question. Is like, what do you make of the underdogness and being able to work that?
Well, I mean, honestly, when I've looked at the Pittsburgh Steelers over the years, and we have been favored to win, it's usually when they drop the ball the biggest, But when this team has always had a chip on its shoulder, all of a sudden it doesn't matter what. Who lines up, you're going to have Cameron Hayward coming at you 110%, TJ Watt 110%. I mean, it's just the whole theme this week, Ben, saying, oh yeah, we're just going to go out there and have fun. We're not going to really be able to, compete up. Hayward said something about, oh, I thought it was more than a two touchdown favorite or whatever. I think it's Tomlin, don't count us out if we have a pulse. I mean, like you said, it's that whole underdog theme. It's what they've been running with. It's a galvanizing concept. I think that's the biggest thing. The team really buys into it. And that's the special part about a team like Pittsburgh. When there is that total buy-in, even when there's the Ray McLeods of the world, hell, the Benny Snells of the world, they all came together and found a way to win that game in Baltimore. You just get the feeling, exactly like you said, that there's something afoot, and they're going to find a way to at least make this a game the entire way. They're going to have their chance to win this game. That's what it feels like.
Well, FC, I mean, you watched the matchup that you had the last time. And yes, of course, we're all Steelers fans. We remember 2005 where the Steelers went to Indianapolis, riding a high and looking like they were the new contender. And we have Ben Roethlisberger, and we're going to be amazing. And then Indianapolis just kicked them. They hit with an 80-yard touchdown, in the first series, and then got big in that game and won 26-7. It seemed worse at the time. And the Steelers came back and played them in the playoffs. And I just remember in that game, I had hope because I knew we had this quarterback, and we still were, we were a really good team, and we were really close last year. But I think I'd be lying if I said that I really believed the Steelers were going to win that game against Indianapolis. Is this a similar situation where,
I actually approach this game as a little bit similar to a different game, same playoff year. You remember the 2005 Cincinnati Bengals? T.J. Hushmanzada wiping his cleats with the terrible foul. Chad Johnson. He had an incredible season for Carson Palmer. The backs were going well. Their defense really, really solid. Came out of nowhere. Was really improved. This Bengals team, this Chiefs team reminds me a little bit of the 2005 Cincinnati Bengals, who happened to win the AFC North that season. The game that Kimo von Oelhoffen pretty much ended Carson Palmer's mobility. That season was special. The reason I think that season was special was because that defense was just, it had good players on. You had Troy Polamalu and you had Ike Taylor. But you had a lot more of lunch pail guys, the guys that, the Aaron Smiths, the Brett Kiesels, the Kimo von Oelhoffens, the Larry Foots. That team was a little bit special because of the defense. This team's a little bit different, and it's not defined. It's going to be defined by maybe, fourth quarter heroics or offensive inefficiency, but just the law of averages tell you at some point they're going to get an offensive script, first 20 plays right, and what better time than first wildcard game, to finally, hit on some things early. And I understand that it's going to take some bravado from, Canada, and he's definitely going to have to break tendencies. But I would love to see how this team operates with a 2-3 score lead in a game. Because I do believe Naji Harris is going to play. And I think that just from a mental standpoint, offensively, for the offensive line, where they don't have to retreat, if they can get out and attack more, I think you can see a lot of positive results. And if the Steelers come out and they get beat, everybody expects that. Outside of, Steeler Nation, there's nobody that's going to give us a chance. But Patrick Mahomes hasn't been a great playoff performer if you look. And if you look at Patrick Mahomes, what he's done over the last 5 or 6 weeks, you look at what Tyreek Hill's done over the last 5 or 6 weeks. You look at what the Chiefs defense has done over the last 5 or 6 weeks. You got to remember, last week, that game, Melvin Ingram probably had the biggest play. And the week before that, Travis Kelce had a nice game. But the week before that, you're talking about defense, you're talking about Honey Badger, you're talking about defensive backs out of nowhere making plays. I don't know how well the Kansas City Chiefs would respond to being punched in the fucking mouth a couple times early in the game. If you told me the Steelers got up to a 10-0 lead in the first quarter, it's 17-0 at halftime, and Kansas City pulled it up, it would sound a lot like the early Philadelphia Eagles teams that Andy Reid led.
Yeah, I could see that. Go ahead.
With the Chiefs, I see a lot of false bravado. I see a lot of early Mike Tyson. And then finally what happened to Mike Tyson is he ran into Buster Douglas, who on one night decided, you know what, I'm going to fight for my mama, and this motherfucker's going to kill me to knock me out. And Mike Tyson didn't get to be the bully. And when Mike Tyson couldn't be the bully, and he had to go backwards for a little bit, he got knocked out. And Evander Holyfield made him take steps back, and Tyson lost his shit. And then the mystique came off of Mike Tyson. The mystique has not come off the Kansas City Chiefs, really, because there hasn't been a 2005 or 2008 or a 2000 Baltimore Ravens defense. I think if the Chiefs had to face a true elite defense, which they haven't, I think this mystique might have been taken away from them a long time ago. Do I think that this Steelers defense is elite? No. Do I think that they can put together an elite game plan and be elite for 3 hours? TJ Watt ain't too bad. Minka Fitzpatrick ain't that bad. I'd be willing to go to war with Cam Hayward. You're going to be getting a healthier Isaiah Buggs back. Would it be a dream to get to it in Alua back? If they honestly did, this would have a 2005 feel to the Pittsburgh Steelers for me. Just because I could see them just pounding the drum behind this defense. Just, like just the feeling that you get, whenever you see like a team that's just about to change its luck, change what happens. 2005 is without a doubt the most special Pittsburgh Steelers season that I can remember.
Yeah, Jeremy, this thing FC's talking about, it does feel like the Chiefs kind of want to be pretty and they want style points, and being able to dictate the terms a little bit, that this is going to be a slugfest and bloody rather than a pretty game. How do the Steelers accomplish that when, for the most part, teams against Kansas City are just afraid that they're going to get killed?
Yeah, that's the big question. Like FC said, the two biggest offensive pieces we have to worry about are Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Hill's dealing with that heel injury. Kelsey's dealing with a little bit of hip. They looking right here. They both have had full practices on Wednesday. Kelsey had a full practice today. Limited practice for Hill. I mean, that is the way to beat them when you take away those two options. What worries me is I've seen the Kansas City Chiefs a lot in the past few weeks use their backs as receivers out of the backfield, and that's asking a lot of our linebackers this year. It just doesn't seem like we're getting consistent play from our linebackers in coverage. So I think that's a concern going into this game. But the way to do it is to walk guys like Joe Thuney and Creed Humphrey right back into Patrick Mahomes' lap. Don't let him sit there and then improvise. If he's got to evade initial pressure and then scan the field, his clock can get sped up. We've seen that happen before. Like FC said, he has not been like some stellar playoff performer. He's been good enough to win games in the playoffs, but I think initial pressure up the middle, like Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, maybe able to take advantage of Trey Smith, the rookie out of Tennessee. We need to take it to war in the trenches on defense. That's how we're going to beat these guys if we do.
To me, one of the keys is, much like it was with young Ben, not letting Mahomes escape to the right and make plays downfield, which is, or run the ball from there, which is something I think is a predominant thing that he likes to do. In other words, he's looking to escape right past your speed rush, and he's looking to make plays down the field. And if he can, he'll take off, right? So TJ Watt being on that side, are you willing to, what percentage of TJ Watt's focus and energy do you want to put on contain rather than just going after the quarterback?
Maybe 20% tops. I mean, I want to kill. I mean, we got to hit Mahomes. We got to try and disrupt his timing. We got to put some physical hits on him and try and create a turnover, whether it's a bad throw or a strip sack. If you're just playing contain on him, he's going to chew you up. So, but it's not like he's Lamar Jackson where he's going to take off and run for 100 yards on you during the game. But like you said, he'll scramble to that side and make the throws down the field. But to me, you just got to pressure him. You got to hit him. You got to put him on his ass.
The issue, the problem is you also have Tyreek Hill playing the flanker position. So Patrick Mahomes is escaping to his right, throwing the ball to probably the fastest, most explosive player in the NFL, and you also have Travis Kelce down the middle of the field. Actually, what you have to hope for is a very good interior rush from Wormley or from Loudermilk or from Mondo or whoever's rushing the passer from the left defensive tackle position. And, I by no stretch of the imagination try to take the inside pass rush move away from TJ Watt, but I also tell him, hey, we got to contain, we got to be under control, and we got to play smart football. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes for a reason. I mean, excuse me, super special arm. Just whenever he's hot, fearless, and he'll rip the ball, he'll grip it and rip it, hang it high, let it fly. And, as many times as we've seen Ben scramble to the right and make the big throws over the years, we've also seen him, what the fuck are you doing, Ben, type of throws too. What you have to do is he has to be scrambling out to the right, running for his life. He can't be just a little jaunt for him to pick up time, take two side steps, and, rip a 35 or 40-yard strike to, Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. I think that there's different ways of getting to the edge. If he's running for his life, being chased by Cam Hayward, or Devin Bush or whoever, it's a lot different than him being able to just this little sidestep, rip. If Patrick Mahomes is that type of rhythm, Steelers defense is in trouble. And we better hope the offense is in the mood to score.
Yeah. Just a quick note on that, Jeremy. Chiefs have had a lot of problems at right tackle this season. They started with Lucas Niang there. He got injured, came back, and then I think he tore his Achilles or something. He's out. And they had another guy, a second guy that they were playing there that also is gone now. And I think Remmers is the guy that started for them in the Super Bowl, is now back starting for them at right tackle. I look for him to get a lot of help against TJ Watt.
I mean, yeah, I definitely think so. I think Andrew Wiley might be another guy who's been out there from time to time, manning that right tackle spot. I mean,
I think he might be the one that got hurt. I'm gonna look while you answer.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, those are the two guys they relied on in the Super Bowl, and we all saw how that came out. Like FC said, when you get Mahomes running for his life, he doesn't have near the time to make quick snap decisions to launch the ball and stuff. I mean, I definitely think they're going to be doubling TJ Watt, or if they're not doubling him, that they're going to be chipping him every play. Whether it's Edwards-Helaire, Darrell Williams, maybe Kelsey coming off the line, even though they tend to use him more like a receiver to get him his free release off the line. So, I mean, I definitely think you have to help out with TJ Watt, where the Pittsburgh's going to have to win our other matchups. Alex Highsmith has to play his best game of the year versus Orlando Brown Jr. Cameron Hayward's got to walk Joe Thuney back, like we kind of alluded to. We've got to win all of our matchups across the line, or it's just going to be a long day like it was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think Andrew Wiley, if I have this right, is now going to start. Remmers and Niang are out. So,
okay.
Yeah, Andrew Wiley, good run blocker. Yeah, well, a good run blocker, but not necessarily the best pass projector. So maybe the Chiefs will come out and try to run the football against the Steelers.
I would encourage them to. If the Chiefs want to run it instead of throwing it, I hope that's the case. Take the ball out of Mahomes' hands, get it away from those weapons. Kansas City isn't the most dynamic rushing team that we're going to face. So, if they think they can run on the Steelers and that's a better way forward, I think that Tomlin and the Steelers staff would be pretty excited about that.
Yeah, Kansas City struggled a little bit with Denver, wasn't it? I saw some highlights of Joe Thuney getting run over a couple of times in that game. At any rate, FC, people have long memories. They think back to that 2005 run and they think, the Steelers have, been sort of like very run centric and these short passes and so on and so forth. And then in 2005, it was a similar thing during the regular season. When they got in the playoffs, they started these games attacking by Ben throwing the ball and play action. Do you think that's the right kind of strategy to attack Kansas City? So to make them feel attacked and make them feel like the intensity is high, or do you think you sort of alluded to maybe you think the Steelers should come out and try to run the ball at them?
I think that the Steelers should try to come out with their first goal on offense for touchdowns. And the second goal is keep the offense on the field. Now, you're going to have to assimilate the run game and to be able to keep your offense on the field, keep your defense off the field, and keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. That's not rocket science. I think it's more important for the Steelers to take the Kansas City Chiefs' heart, bravado, swagger, let them know that they're in a game, in a fist fight early on. So that means, in my opinion, throwing the football. And if it's Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, Cody White, I don't give a rat's ass who it is, but find the open guy. Kevin Rader, find the open guy. Zach Gentry, Pat Fairman. Your only chance to win a Super Bowl is behind Ben Roethlisberger. If you become successful with the run game, or with the passing game, I guarantee you they're not going to say single high safety. As soon as they go to two safeties, you're going to be able to run the football. I love Chris Jones. The reason the Steelers had no problems getting rid of Melvin Ingram is he really is not too interested in playing the run. He'll play the run 5, 6, 7 plays. If he has to continuously play the run, he loses interest, and he plays patty cake. If he loses interest and plays patty cake, you can now block him with a tight end. If you can block him with a tight end, that is a big win for the Steelers' offense.
Yeah,
players break without realizing they're breaking. And that is what I see a lot of from Kansas City. I can't help but go back to that Super Bowl. And Patrick Mahomes went from being Ben Roethlisberger, Brett Favre, one level below Tom Brady in my mind, to jury's out. I lost a lot of respect for him in that Super Bowl last year. Now, maybe it's just one game and I'm crazy, but I didn't see a ton of improvement this season. I actually seen some regression.
Yeah, I think some of that is, he had so much success early that it's you think it's an anomaly and I don't have to adjust, but maybe he has to adjust. I don't know. I mean, I've been saying, like, I'm a huge fan of Patrick Mahomes, but I've been saying that this whole thing about, throwing back across his body late over the middle is one of those, like, breaks the NFL axiom over and over again and has been really great with it, but it also does feel like that is just sitting there as a thing that's going to come back to bite him someday in a big way at the wrong time. One of those things for sure. I mean, I don't know, like, this, I feel like in a way, Jeremy, this game has less to do about the individual matchups in the game and more to do with, who can set the terms of engagement. So in this fight, it just feels like one wants a brawl and the other wants to be pretty. I know I said that earlier, but it really does seem to keep coming back around to that. Do you feel like there are any individual matchups that really concern you more than the style of the game that the Steelers choose to play?
As far as our offense going against them or their offense?
Either way, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I already touched on, I think their running backs out in pass routes can really hurt us. They do lots of little creative things to get the ball into a running back's hands, where he's got an open field or whatever. So, I mean, we're going to have to stay gap sound and assignment sound just in general. So, because I feel like that's one of those types of plays where it's like, if the running back takes a 2-yard pass and finds a way to go 30 yards, it's one of those like back-breaking type plays. Now we've got to bring everyone up a little bit more. Then do they try to go over the top more? Because, I mean, they've got guys that can go over the top. I mean, I think we're gonna play two safeties deep a lot and try to keep everything underneath. That's when teams are the most effective against Patrick Mahomes, when he gets impatient with the short game, which he's been better at recently. But I feel like we're going to do everything to make sure we keep everything in front of us. We have not been a great team when we are forced to run and go do something. We got to keep the action in front of us, especially as a defense. Offensively, I think if Juju can play, I think he can be a really big X factor here because his blocking out of the slot is he's just got better size than Ray Ray. Ray Ray is a little quicker, but not by much. If Juju can go out there and be a blocker in the ground game, I think that could be the biggest difference with him coming back. He's probably not going to be, he's not 100%, obviously, but he's one of those guys that plays tough and plays hard when we call him upon that type of role, and he knows that's what he's coming into. Like you said, it's a dogfight. So I really think Juju could be a bit of an X factor here. If they try to put like Willie Gay, the linebacker, or Nick Bolton on him, he's quick enough to make them, take a misstep. Those guys are great straight line guys. They're not great when you force them to go laterally. I think Pat Freiermuth could be nice, but we seem to have this reluctance to go over the middle. And it's like, I feel like that's where we could really take advantage this week. If Ben is the one calling the plays and getting some matchups, I think we can take advantage of the middle of the field and the intermediate game in the middle of the field.
Yeah, well, it does feel like there were some middle of the field shots this last week, thinking of throws to Ray Ray and Deontay Johnson and Freiermuth. So it does feel like there's as things got a little bit more urgent for them, they didn't fear doing that, and they had some success with it. FC, here's a question I have. This thing that the teams have done to Mahomes now has become this sort of how you play Patrick Mahomes. You have two safeties high, and you try to make him be patient going down the field. That's all well and good. The question is, can the Steelers, who struggle to stop the run, playing that too high shell, can they stop the run well enough with that against the Chiefs? Because even though the Chiefs aren't that committed to running the football that often, it does feel like you have to choose your poison.
Steelers slyly, I don't know if it was slyly or if it just happened from tap outs and substitutions, played Hayward, Montavious Adams, and I want to say Bucks, but it could have been Bucks, so it might have been Mondo. And they ran some stunts. I don't know if it was Tomlin's influence or what on the defense, but they were a lot of times slanting right into the runs. My main issue with the Steelers still is tackling. No yards after contact. If you have a too deep shell, the Steelers have been run on. It's happened. They're going to need better play from Joe Schober. They're going to need better play from Devin Bush. They're going to need better play from Highsmith and T.J. Watt setting the edge. Run defense is a unit. It's 11 guys. 10 guys can be perfect. One guy lays an egg. You can give up a 60-yard touchdown. That's just it's the ugliness and the beauty of football. I would love to see, Bugs, Montavious Adams, and Cam Hayward on, the field the anytime the Chiefs are in two tight end offense, which is more than a lot of people really expect or take into account for. Because I don't think that the Chiefs can single block any one of those guys if they're coming upfield or if they're slanting, and especially if they're slanting to, the right hole. If the defense read it right and they're attacking and they're playing downhill. I would love the two gap. We just don't have the ability to do it. So we're going to have to do it with speed and violence and ferocity. And if the Steelers have to come out of the too high shell, they're going to get beat over the top. Hardman, Pringle, Cheetah, Kelsey, they have weapons. Marcus Robinson, they have weapons. But if you can get Patrick Mahomes off his spot, if you can get Patrick Mahomes, whirly bird. What Ben was best at is a lot of times now where Patrick Mahomes is making mistakes. We were talking about pressure. Pressure busts pipes. Some people just love to play and coach under that pressure with those busted pipes. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they don't play really great under pressure. They don't coach well. They make mental mistakes. Sure, Ben does, but Ben also hangs rings, and Ben's also had some ultra successful playoff games. So,
yeah, you made me want to say a bunch of stuff there, FC. First is though, bad news for your prognostication. Isaiah Buggs got cut actually, I think 2 days ago. So they let him go.
He did, and he will be playing on Saturday versus our hated Bengals. He got picked up by the Raiders.
Yeah, well, there you go. Didn't take long. But I was going to say, but Loudermilk maybe is the guy. They're a little bit of Mondo, and they throw some Loudermilk in there, and Chris Wormley, and that seems to be, at least treading water on that side. That's one thing. The second thing I was going to say was, you talked a little bit about, they can if they try to sit back, sometimes they get a little bit passive in tackling. And I think that's a key. I feel like when your defense is confident and aggressive, they tackle and they stop guys in their tracks. You catch the ball, you go down. You run the football. As soon as we get to you, you go down. But when you're passive, it seems like they worry about, are you going to be able to get by me? And maybe you get juked, maybe you miss a tackle or something like that. It's just something about being aggressive and playing downhill on defense is such a big advantage. And it seems like you're better off doing that and letting a guy, if he gets by you, gash you, than you are getting, killed in little chunks because you can't tackle well. So Jeremy, how do you see this in terms of the aggression part of it? Do you sit back and too deep zone and still, have that aggressive mentality, or is it hard to do both those together?
I would agree with on the latter. I think it's tough to do that, especially with FC saying we're not a good tackling team. We need that first read. We know where we're going, type speed, and then arrive there with an intent to hurt, rather than sit back. And watch Devin Bush and Joe Sherbert whiff when a guy makes a move. I think you're absolutely right there. When we don't have to worry about that, we are a lot better of a tackling team. When the decision is easy to go get them. When we sit back, we tend to miss a lot of plays. I think you're dead on there.
I think one other name we got to throw out there is Daniel Sorensen. Every big Chiefs game I watch, that guy's just getting torched for something deep. You got to kind of watch some film and try to scheme something in to attack that guy because he's just garbage. I don't know why they haven't replaced him like 3 years ago, but that would be my number one target, like playing dodgeball. And you look at the guy you're going to get out first. I'm going to Daniel Sorensen every chance I can get.
FC, one thing I wanted to know before I move on, and that is Keller Witherspoon has continued his stellar play this last week. He's now been, since he's been starting or playing 70% of the snaps in games, which is like the last 5 or 6 games, he has been absolutely outstanding at what they're having him do. In this game, do you think matchup wise, you want to see him as the guy that shadows Hill, or do you want to see him as the guy that takes someone else away so that they can put a lot of resources on Hill? How do you think the Steelers will approach this Kelsey Hill situation with personnel?
Joe Hayden being back healthy means a lot to the Steelers. I think the Steelers are a more confident defense with Joe Hayden being back. So I think that's going to cut a little bit into Witherspoon's snaps. But at the same time, it gives you options. You can move Cortland Sutton around. I hate to say this. The less I see of Millette, the better. I know that the team loves him. I prefer Pierre. I don't get the love for Millette. I think our 3 best corners are Joe Hayden, Witherspoon, and Sutton. From there, if TJ Watt wreaks havoc, that means Travis Kelce's going to have to chip, which means he's going to be delayed in his pass routes, or they're going to have to check with the back, which Jeremy makes a fantastic point. He's made it a couple times about the backs for Kansas City being such a large part of their passing game. So that's something that'll be taken away. Anything that you can do to slow the Chiefs down, to slow Patrick Mahomes thinking down is, a humongous benefit. Now, do I think they're going to have something special cooked up for the Chiefs? Sure. I think that Witherspoon, they're going to have, we may see 2 or 3 defenses, with Miles Killebrew and Witherspoon and, on the field where when the Chiefs come out with their 4 wide receiver packages, with their jet, where they have, Kelsey and the 4 wide receivers and no backs. I expect the Steelers are going to be prepared for that. I think that, Keith Butler and Mike Tomlin are probably going to be spending every minute up until, Saturday evening, Sunday walkthrough, trying to prepare for as much as they can. And getting the best personnel on the field is the best way to win games. And breaking tendencies and showing the Chiefs things they haven't seen. And, Keith Butler he followed Mike Tomlin around, or followed Dick LeBeau around for a long time, and there's a lot of stuff that they can throw at the Chiefs. Personnel package-wise especially.
Yeah, it feels like the idea of like keeping it mysterious as to what to put, making him delay for even just a count when the ball is snapped, trying to figure out what's going on is the kind of thing that can be all the difference in the world between your pass rush being able to get there or not. So against a guy like Mahomes, you need every little advantage like that you
can
can.
Do the Steelers zone blitz?
Not a lot, right? Yeah, I mean, especially the last 2 years.
Right. Let's bring it back to Pittsburgh. Let's keep it alive like it's 1995.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, Jeremy, before we move on, any last words? I'll give it to you for this on this previewing this matchup. Anything that we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
Yeah, we just can't turn the ball over. If we make some bad decision where we turn the ball over, I think that's the thing that'll undo all the, the camaraderie, the brave face all week type of stuff. We have to go out there and play. We have to go out there and execute. That's the biggest thing. If we go out there and we're missing blocks, on offense, if we're missing tackles on defense, this is going to turn ugly real quick. The Chiefs are a team where it's going to really hurt us. I worry about Jerron Reed and Chris Jones in the middle on our offensive line. Those guys are big. They're active. Chris Jones eats people's lunch when he goes and rushes the passer. And another thing that is really underrated about his game is because he's 6'6", he gets those arms up and gets, his hands in the way of passes. The one thing I don't want this to turn into is that game that we played in Washington last year where every ball is getting batted down to the line of scrimmage. If that happens, we don't have a shot. We have got to, offensively, we've got to check these guys so they can't get their hands up. That's going to be the first thing they're taught. If we're not getting to them, we're just going to jump straight up and hit all these little quick throws out of the game. They will eliminate that part of the game if we allow them to.
I agree with you, although Chris Jones will seem tiny compared to the guy they faced last week, Calais Campbell, who's like
fair enough.
Taller and bigger and longer.
No, fair point. Chris Jones is a stud.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, of course. And I that's the guy that I really wanted to become a Steeler in the draft. But yeah, he's a problem. Chris White is definitely a problem. And Jerron Reed is very stout player as well. So yeah, you're right that the interior matchups do not favor the Steelers. That's for sure.
Right. And one more thing that I think will be nice is it does look like we're going to be getting Dan Moore back this week. He's had 2 full practices yesterday and today. I mean, he's going to be an upgrade. If the general Joe Haig can come off the bench and play, that's fine. But if Dan Moore can be out there, I mean, he's a very good run blocker. It seems like he's very, sound in pass protection. Frank Clark's not a guy who totally worries me. This seems like a matchup that Dan Moore can stalemate more often than not. So I feel like if we can take care of, the Kansas City front 4, I think we'll have a chance.
Yeah, I think he's one of those cats. First of all, testing off the charts athlete kind of guy. So I think it's, they keep thinking he'll come around. And then right when he's about to get replaced, he'll make a big play and they'll get seduced by that. I think that's happened to them numerous times over the last 2 or 3 years. So he's managed to keep his job with, like I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, he had a big play that helped win the game for them. And I just feel like that's all it takes sometimes if you're really into the guy. It's a little like Terrell Edmonds, there's times where you could just be like, oh, it's so frustrating if you just, turn around, he'd be better in coverage or you just had more awareness or whatever. And then once in a while he'll make a play and you're like, okay, like he's serviceable, he can work. So yeah, I think they're in sort of a similar situation there. But you're right. That's a place that, theoretically you can try to target. Is it a game where you want to see more Pat Freiermuth try to get him the ball in the middle of the field?
I want them to take their playbook and burn it and go back and use anything from, the first 12, 13 years of Ben's career and just go back to it. You got to come out and attack the middle of the field. You've got to throw intermediate passing routes, mix a little play action in here and there. But this, misdirection throw to the line of scrimmage, every single throw 2 yards and not throw down the field until the fourth quarter, which how many games have we seen this year where they haven't thrown the ball 10 yards from the line of scrimmage until the fourth quarter? I mean, practically at all. It's constant. They've got to come out with that fourth quarter mentality. Go into the game and tell your guys before it starts, guys, you're down 21-0. We got to come back. And that's got to be the entire mentality of the offense, the game plan, the coaching, everything. Is we are going to try to be what the Chiefs are and try to match them with our offense. And if it fails, it fails. You took a chance. But from proof, the first game we averaged like 3 yards an attempt passing the ball and couldn't score until the game was over. That didn't work. You can't come out doing the same shit again. It's got to be aggressive, downfield, NFL caliber offensive game plan, which we do not have and have not had all season. So take the game plan we've had for the last 2, 3, 4 years, completely burn it, and go back to what they used to do with Ben. Treat Ben like he's 25 or 30 or whatever, and let him go. And if he fails, but you gave yourself a chance.
Yeah, I'll throw a stat at you, Perch. The Steelers are near the top in terms of teams attempting short passes, especially, over the middle of the field, these crossing patterns and so on and so forth. But they are the 31st most effective team at doing that. The Chiefs on defense are number 1 in the league at stopping short passes or in the middle of the field, right? So what does that tell you?
Since you threw a stat at me, I'll throw one back at you. Mike Tomlin is the only coach in the NFL that has a winning record in games where he's an underdog. So between him and Ben, they both have winning records in games that they were favored to lose. So we've got a shot.
Yeah, it's our secret weapon, being favored to lose in a way, right? All right. Well, on that note, let's move on quickly. We're just going to get around to our Around the League pick segment, brought to us by
Chico's Bill Bond. That's it.
Perfect. Hey, listen, we took a long time talking about the Steelers, which is great because this is the Pittsburgh Steelers show. But since we did, we maybe just buzz through some of these. I'll start with you, Jeremy. Just give me this. Tell me the game this weekend, Super Wild Card weekend, that has the best chance to, other than the Steelers game, to be an upset. What underdog do you like this weekend?
I like San Francisco. I think they have a chance to go into Dallas, and if they can be physical and run the ball and kind of control the clock, I think they can force Dallas into some mistakes. Dallas is not, untouchable like people thought they might be. As good as Trayvon Diggs is, he sure gives up a lot of passing yards too. So really, it's going to be up to the Dallas defense if they want to win that game, because the 49ers, they find a way to run the ball. They've got different packages that allow them to run the ball effectively, capitalize on matchups. I think the 49ers have a decent shot at winning. I still say Dallas probably pulls it out, but I think that's the best chance for what I think would be a clear upset this weekend. I don't think many people are picking San Francisco to do much in these playoffs.
Well, I know I also like San Francisco. I picked them on my other show to win this game. I agree with you for several reasons. FC, how about you?
I actually agree with that. I also expect the New England Patriots to upset the Buffalo Bills. I don't think that's too shocking to too many people.
No, Bills Patriots. Bills favored 4.5. The Patriots have already beat them. They play them tough. It's Belichick. That's pretty high probability. I can't see the Eagles beating the Bucs. I don't think that's going to happen. That 49ers Dallas game to me should be about a pick 'em. I think that's a really good one to pick. And then the Cardinals Rams. Yeah, all these divisional games, teams that have played each other, they're familiar with each other. Hard to say which one the most. I guess if I had to pick one the most, I would say Patriots beating the Bills.
Don't the Bills? I would say both the Bills and the Rams, I feel the same way about. They just don't feel like the sum of their parts. They just don't feel better. They have a lot of parts and a lot of stud players, but they don't feel to be as good as you would think they would look like on paper.
The Rams are so much missing Robert Woods. Robert Woods brings a Hines Ward / Juju Smith-Schuster element to the game, which people are going to be like, huh? He's tough, and he'll do the dirty things like Hines Ward, and his teammates love him the way they love Juju Smith-Schuster, just because of how fun and how much he loves the game, and he loves his teammates, that he makes practice fun type of thing just by the smile on his face, and I never trusted Matthew Stafford. So, yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford, I think, has the most interceptions of any quarterback in these playoffs, which is a little bit of a
he's just been turning the ball over left and right.
Bad omen, yeah. Just last one, Las Vegas Raiders at Cincinnati. Vegas, short week for them. They played an overtime game, of course, until late into the early morning hours on Sunday. Now have to come back on Saturday and travel to Cincinnati and play there this weekend against a team that, on paper looks like they're better. Who do you like in this matchup?
Yeah, I think it'll be between, about a one-score game. So somewhere between 3 and 8 points at the end of the game where, the Raiders, I still want to call them Oakland, is going to have a chance late in the game to possibly win it.
I like the Bengals. The Raiders, found a way or whatever, but I think the Madden magic kind of runs out this week. It's been a really weird up and down year for the Raiders, even though I love rooting for Derek Carr. I mean, that's a guy I think a lot of people would like on their team. He's just that pure football guy, great guy, want to win for him or whatever. I just think the Bengals have a little bit too much offensively. I mean, the Raiders' defense was collapsing in that game versus the Chargers. Well, once that thing got to overtime, I thought there's no way the Chargers don't go down and score a touchdown on their first drive with how bad the Raiders' defense was playing. I think Zach Taylor and that offense, they're going to pounce early. The Raiders are not a team that can catch up if they're behind. If the game is close, they can stay in the fight. But when they get down, by 10, 12 points, it just becomes a lot harder because their identity is running the ball, getting Renfro on short routes where he can capitalize on his quickness. If Cincinnati can just sit back and go after the passer, I think Cincinnati ends up winning this game by 10 or 14 points.
Yeah. How about you, FC?
I agree. What's Las Vegas' head coach's name?
Pete DiSaccio or something.
Bisaccia, yeah. If any coach wins Coach of the Year this year over him, the award's a fucking joke. You look at what he's gone through, what he's kept that team together through. To make the playoffs, it's one of the greatest coaching jobs of the last 25 years in the NFL. You just look at what they've gone through, from what John Gruden was accused of, to cutting 2 first-round picks, to having one of those first-round picks, I hate to say this, kill a woman. Unbelievable job.
Yeah, I have to agree. As to the game, I think Vegas is going to cover in this game, and I'll tell you why. I think Cincinnati will win a close game, but this the one weakness I think if you look at Cincinnati on paper are their tackles, offensive tackles in terms of pass protection, and that's the one thing that the Raiders can really do to limit what your offense does. And I think they played earlier this year and had a similar situation where they were really limited. The Bengals were really limited what they could do pushing the ball downfield. So I think it's going to be a lot of Joe Mixon in this game. And not a lot of Chase. So whatever the line is for Jamar Chase's yardage in this game, I'm taking the under, and I'm saying that they're going to have to be patient to beat this Raiders team. Wouldn't surprise me if it's a field goal game. So Vegas to cover the 5.5 with the 5.5 points, or to cover with the 5.5 points, I should say. Gentlemen, I think that takes us around our Around the League pick segment. It's time to get down to our 5-star matchup. And it is our 5-star matchup, of course, because we're in it. And even though I think the three of us are we constitute a plurality of the people in the world who think it's a 5-star matchup, maybe. There aren't too many others. Everyone thinks this is the worst matchup of the weekend. Why do they put it on Sunday night? I have no idea. I have a feeling that putting it on Sunday night might seem wise at some point during the game, but I'm going to start with you, Jeremy. Tell me what you think of this Steelers and Chiefs matchup. What is going to happen? Look into your crystal ball.
Let me dust it off the shelf here, but I mean, I think it's going to be a close game throughout. I think the level of attention to detail this week from the Steelers. Their effort, it's going to keep them close. It's going to keep them close enough to maybe potentially win this game. It just seems like when we have our shot, we've got to know if we're going to be able to capitalize. It's going to take a young player this week stepping up and making a big-time play. You know, we can't have Deontay Johnson dropping a critical ball on third down, you know, to give the ball back to the Chiefs. That, you know, that's going to just deflate this team. When we have our opportunities, we have to cancel. Just my gut says we're going to fall just a tad bit short.
Do you want to give us a score?
Yeah, I'll go 27-21. I think we'll have a chance late. We'll just fall just a tad short.
Yeah.
You know, the Steelers have no business being in this game. They have no business winning this game. But you know, backs against the wall. I believe in Ben. Even at this point, I believe that there's something there's a little bit of magic left, and he's going to soak that out. And you know, it's going to be difficult. I don't know if Harris is going to be available or not. That's a big key. If not, put Ben in the no huddle. There's no tomorrow. Let him throw the ball 60 times. See what happens. I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna say Steelers 27, Chiefs 24, and let's do this again next week.
Yeah, I might not be here because I'll be dead. It's a 3-point game, and Patrick Mahomes has the ball at the end. But yes, thank you, sir. I appreciate the commitment to show up here every week until the Steelers are no longer winning.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. How about you, FC?
I had a dream 2 out of the last 3 nights that Ben Roethlisberger is 5-5 in this game. 5-5 in fantasy terms means 500 yards passing and 5 touchdowns. No, I have not switched off the marijuana to the crack cocaine, I assure you. You know, and those numbers seem so fucking ridiculous until you realize Ben's done it before. A couple times. I don't know how, but I just think that the Steelers are going to have like 5 or 6 guys that are just going to make plays. It's not going to be Deontay Johnson, you know, going ape shit like Chase. It's not going to be, you know, Chase Claypool with a 4-touchdown game. It's just going to be, you know, 5 or 6 guys that are going to go out there and make plays. I think the thing that is the most underappreciated and overlooked by Steelers Nation is Steelers managed to put together a pretty decent offensive line. I expect Moore Jr.'s back in the game, which gives them nice depth. I think Tank has been a godsend this season. Yeah. I think he has played very good football when called upon. Got a little Frenchie LeGlue. He had some issues. Calais Campbell's a pretty good football player, so no one lied to you. And he took a beating, but he also gave a few beatings out. So I think Pittsburgh Steelers win this football game 38-31. Kansas City Chiefs are going to score a last-minute touchdown to bring it to 38-31. So during meaningful time, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win this game 38-24 with a last-second garbage touchdown by the Chiefs, bringing it to 38-31.
That's very funny that you said that, FC, because very strange dream myself. In the dream, the only thing I remember about the dream is that Ben had, I remember the announcer saying that he had 5 touchdowns to 5 different receivers. That was the thing. It's really funny that you said something almost identical to that. So either we've been, it's like that movie Paprika, the anime film, where we're just inside each other's dreams, or we're seeing into the future, or we're seeing what we would like to see.
If I'm anything, I'm a man of my word, so you know where I'm going with this. I'll never, ever pick against Ben Roethlisberger ever in his career again. So I'm going Steelers 77, Chiefs 7. Steelers in a laugher.
77-7. Well, there would be the 5 touchdown, 500-yard prediction that FC had. in his
That
dream.
happened last year, right? Didn't he? But he had 500 yards and I think 4 touchdowns last
Pretty
year.
close.
Forget about the 4 picks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to give a realistic pick because if I was being realistic, I would say the Chiefs probably win by a couple touchdowns. But anything can happen, and I just like the fact that the team is going to be loose. I like the fact that the team is playing with house money. I like the fact that the team can pick up any publication or turn on any show this week and see everybody's picking against them. And, most of the picks they're supposed to lose by 20 to 30 points. They've got some talented and prideful guys in a defense. I could see Hayward having a big game. I could see Watt going off. I could see Minka coming up with some plays. And Joe Hayden, how many more chances is he going to have in the playoffs in the rest of his career? And Ben's just going to he should be loose. There's no reason for Ben to be tight in this game. Like, if you go out and sync it up, that's what everybody expected you to do. He's never had that in his career ever. It's always been pressure. You have to win. You're the guy. Carry the team. And now it's just house money. So, and that pressure is definitely kicked over to Kansas City. And you look at Kansas City's games this year, they've played close down the stretch with a lot of shitty teams. Outside of blowing up, they had 2 or 3, 4 games this year where they blew the team away, but they've lost some games they shouldn't have lost. They've had other games that were down to the wire. They barely were able to beat Denver last week. I think Pittsburgh's a better overall team than Denver. So it's possible. So I'm going 77-7. I'm sticking to it. You can hold me to it next week if they only win by 30. You can point out that I was 40 points off.
Do you think which was more likely, the Jacksonville Jaguars beating the Colts last week or the Steelers beating the Chiefs this week?
Honestly, I'd say it's pretty similar. Just the fact that both of the games were about the same spread, right? 15-point spreads in each of those games. Yeah. The Jags have had a history of beating the Colts in their own place. The Steelers have a history of beating the Chiefs in the playoffs, although not with Mahomes. The Steelers have some superstars. They have Hayward. They have Watt. They have Minka. They have Hayden. They've got Ben in all his history, and there's a chance. There's a chance that our defense can get lightning in the ball. There's a chance that the Chiefs can underperform, which they've done a lot this year. The Chiefs are not as good as what they showed in the first game against us and what we've thought of them the last 2 years. I think they're primed for an upset, so it can happen. Do I think it will happen? Probably not, but I got to put my money on it. I'm taking the Steelers by 70.
But yeah, it's weird. Ben had 5 touchdown passes in the first half of the game against Baltimore that one year in Monday Night Football, and I want to say that was to 5 different receivers. So it's like if you get hot Ben for a half or for a game, you never know. This kind of stuff could definitely happen. As I said before, to me, the key in this game, the primary key, more than style or if we run or pass or whatever we choose to do, is just that the Steelers have to come out with an intensity level and the determination to let the Chiefs know that this is not going to be a track meet, but it's going to be, a face punching contest, right? There's some contest where basically, it's not a boxing match. It's just like, guys, or you punch as hard as you want in the face, and then I get to punch you as hard as I want in your face, and you go back and forth until somebody gets knocked out. And I think it's like the more they can make it that kind of a competition, I've said it 15 times during the show in 15 different ways, but to me, that's the key to this game. It's like if they let Kansas City dictate it into being a high-flying, run up and down the field kind of a game, that's going to be tough for the Steelers. They might stay in that for a while, but that's not really where it's at. Do I think the Steelers are locked to win this game? I mean, of course not. I'm realistic. I understand that, the Chiefs, when they're rolling, can roll anybody really. But the thing that I know, having watched the Steelers not only for a long time, but specifically this year, the thing I could say is when they're in close games, man, they have an uncanny ability to not only make us all have a heart attack, but to finish those games. I think that's really impressive skill to be able to have. And I would even say that's true of the last couple of years. I would even say that is true more or less of Ben's entire career with the Steelers. So if it's a close game, I like the Steelers' chances. But I would love their chances more if they early on get a lead in this game and give the Chiefs a second to think, oh shit, like we're in for a fight or we're in trouble or whatever. Just get them thinking about what could happen and how they have to raise the level of their play and put some pressure on them. Because if you don't put any pressure on the Chiefs, I think it could be a really long day. I just feel like this is the kind of thing that this coach is really good at. If there's one thing he can do, it's to play the no respect card, and it's to, in a game where they're not supposed to have a chance, to give them a chance. So, I don't know about the score. I don't know if I even really am willing to say the Steelers are necessarily going to win, but I can see them winning this game, and I can see our visions coming true, FC. Although I think more likely that it's just some way that you can't even explain, in the ugliest way possible, that the Steelers figure out a way to win this game. Just because that's who they are. People want to know, what's your identity? We don't know what our identity is. That's the Steelers' problem. Well, their identity is they can win ugly with the best of them. So let the defense come out and punch them in the mouth. Let this offense come down and be, attacking to score and to score touchdowns. If I see those two things happen, I will be satisfied with the outcome. But as I said to someone earlier or yesterday, you'll know within the first 10 minutes whether the Steelers have a chance in this game or not. If they come out guns a-blazing, I believe in them and I believe in Ben. So I'm gonna say it's better to believe than not to believe, to quote Hardnosed. How's that, guys? Jeremy, I'll give you a last word.
Not that I don't believe. It's more that I want to guard my optimism, my cautious optimism. So if we don't do it, I'm not as let down, because, it's been an incredible ride, but we all know this is Ben's last go. It's just really hard to see him coming back at this point. He's basically come out and told everyone that this is his last hurrah. I just want to enjoy the game, and I hope he can, tap into any last magic he's got, because I know he still has it. He can still make some incredible throws. That throw that FC talked about, that throw to Freiermuth against the Ravens, that's going to go down as one of his greatest highlights against the Ravens, and he's had 18 years of playing against the Ravens. He is still capable of doing some incredible things. Ben, I trust in you, and it's been a fun ride. Let's make it go another game too, because if we win this game, we're going to go play the Titans. My best friend's a Titans fan, and I would love to rub it in his face if we beat them again too. So,
you got anything else to say before you go, Perch? Now's the time. Absolutely nothing. Same as every other week, man. Enjoy the game. It's probably Ben's last game. It definitely is if they lose, but just enjoy it, guys. We're playing with house money. If they go out aggressive and they fail spectacularly, at least they tried. If they come in conservative and they lose, let them have it, because they deserve it. Just please be aggressive in this game would be my only message to the Steelers. If you go out and throw everything you can against the wall and still get shellacked, hey, good on you. But if you go in conservative and get waxed, you didn't learn your lesson the first time. So let's throw everything we have at them.
Well, there you go, gentlemen. It's been a blast, and like I said, why not? It's way more fun to believe, and that's all I know, and that's what Ben has taught me over almost 2 decades. It's way more fun to believe.
How about you, FC, for last word?
I'm going to go off script a little bit, and I'm going to. I wish that I could get in touch with older relatives of mine that have passed that were supposedly witches, so they could curse the garbage football franchise known as the Houston Texans, who fired their coach after one season, after no Deshaun Watson, after going 500 in the division, after beating the number 1 seed in the AFC, Tennessee Titans. God, the McNair family are fucking horrible. They're horrible human beings. They're horrible owners, and they need to be removed from the NFL. That is it.
Yeah, that was really, really chicken shit. And I'll add the Dolphins to that list. Another one where it was just like, I don't know what you have to do to keep your job as an NFL head coach if you can't. Those two guys don't deserve to remain NFL coaches because, man, I would have put their coaching jobs they did this year in the top half of the league at least, maybe even top 10 when you consider what they were working with. So, I agree with all that. I'm just going to say one thing. Yes, we have to be in the back of our minds prepared about the ending and the end of the time with Ben, and we have to be prepared that for all our optimism, it doesn't work out in Kansas City, and this is it, the end of the season and the end of an era. But I'll say this: the defense, Ben's defense in the last few playoff losses has really come unglued. It's not even just sort of held the other team in check or given up some points, but held the line at the end of the game or whatever, right? Or they basically just completely came discombobulated. All I'm asking for as a fan is, can the Steelers defense play in this game like it matters for, what Ben deserves to get as a send-off in his career? If they can do that for their own sakes, they'll be playing another week, but it's like we just need this defense to not completely come unglued. Just do your job the way that we know that you can do it for all of your flaws and good things. It's a mixed bag, but just do the best that you can do and do it aggressively. If you're going to make mistakes, make them loud and aggressive ones, and that'll be okay. But that's all I'm hoping for in this game. I just don't want to see another defensive collapse in the playoffs because we deserve better than that as fans. The team deserves better than that. And Ben Roethlisberger certainly deserves better than that. Gentlemen, shout out to Hardnosed for joining us. And shout out to Hardnosed's cat, long since lost, who was our good luck charm. He's out there somewhere, Hardnosed. Maybe we can rattle up his energy for a couple more weeks. So anyway, thank you to Hardnosed for being here, and Hardnosed's wife for allowing him to appear on the show. Thank you to SteelPerch. And to Jeremy Coleman, who's the host of his own life right now in Indianapolis. And also thank you to Dom FC. 14 years, my friend. 14 years. We made it so far. Let's make it another couple of weeks as we reconvene perhaps next week to talk about another Steelers victory. And so I am Wil Masisak, a.k.a. Bradshaw the Man, a.k.a. Accidental Zen on Twitter, saying thank you all for listening, and go get them, Steelers.
Here we go, Steelers.
Yep, here we go.
Take care, everybody. Go Steelers.
Here we go.
Steeler Fury.